We just filled a 15-minute segment. I'm excited now.
That was the best quote that has ever come out of a meeting in America.
It was great. It was great. Those meetings are recorded too.
Right.
And we are live. Welcome to NBA Deeper Dive. It is Thursday, May 4th, and I will not be saying it because I've never seen the movies. I am Josh Engleman. I'm joined by Adam Scherer. We're brought to you by Underdog. We got the Warriors. We got the Lakers. Game 2 should be a fun one. Has to be better than it was yesterday. So hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow us both on Twitter. Handles are below our bodies. Adam, what's up?
Can't be much better than yesterday if you're somebody that has money on the Celtics.
Fair. It's fair. Things were looking decent for me until the game was just over. Got 2 in the top, whatever the hell. Was winning for a bit with 101 of my closest friends. I was messaging you like, I'm winning the DK contest right now, and I'm profiting $300.
Yeah, and I'm looking at my life being like, I'm down $450,000, and you're complaining about being up 220.
Engleman is just too cool for everything, apparently. Yes, true. I am. But I don't know. I don't like old shit. It's hard to watch an old movie.
I don't like it's not old movies for me. Like, so have you seen I'm already blanking on the movie.
Fantastic.
There were 2 of them that came up. Have you seen the Sean Penn movie? Fucking Ridgemont High.
I Am Sam?
No, not I Am Sam.
Which one?
The Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Yes, but it's been like, it's not something that I've rewatched.
Okay, have you seen Ferris Bueller?
Yes.
Those are both movies that I can still watch now and enjoy. So to me, it's not.
So I
it's
have
not
a reason for this, and I'm with you. But
to me, it's not an age thing. It's I am not interested in the general genre of Star Wars, Star Trek.
So that's not it for me. It's the technology of making that movie. Ferris Bueller doesn't matter that it was made in, 1980, whatever the hell. Like, it doesn't have to look dated because it's just like people hanging out. You're driving in a car.
Okay, yeah,
you're at a restaurant.
Fair.
Like
it carries over.
There's no you don't have to worry about like shitty CGI type stuff.
Everybody went to high school. You can replace what your high school thing is and still get the movie. I get it. Yeah. It's
Star
like,
Wars for me, it's just like if I tried to watch that when I was 12, it'd be like, well, they just came out with these new Star Wars and they look way better. And now I go and see insert whatever movie now, and it's just like, well, that looks like shit. Like I think I can see the wires hanging on the fake planet.
Yeah, I get it. It's like, so like I typically don't watch sci-fi stuff. I don't enjoy it that much, but I watched like Avatar in theaters.
Yeah.
If I ever have a kid, they will be the age that I was when I saw Avatar in 2050. I assume to them Avatar is going to look horrible.
Probably, yeah. I mean, it'll just be crazy.
Right.
You'll be able to be in Avatar with some sort of.
But at the time, Avatar was like cutting edge. This is amazing.
Yeah, even if you just go see that now, we're talking about night and day to watching Star Wars. And I didn't my mom and dad weren't Star Wars people, so they never brought it on to me. So by the time that it would have been introduced to me in any sort of real way, I had already made I'd seen enough new good shit where I couldn't go back, and I can't suspend disbelief. I don't watch and have barely seen all of the Rockies.
I've never seen any of them.
I just it's shitty boxing. I can't watch it.
Yeah. I typically don't. I guess don't watch movies. So that's Adam didn't shave. Adam's growing it back.
Are you?
I think I'm at this point obligated to just keep it how it is. But yeah, I'm the same way. I didn't watch the Rockies growing up. I didn't watch Star Wars, Star Trek growing up. I've always been bad about going back and seeing that stuff. My dad was never a Star Wars or Star Trek guy. He did like Rocky, I think, and I just never really watched it. He liked Rambo, which I eventually watched, and I was like, okay, I get it, but also it's dated in terms of technology. Yeah. But
I'll never go back to watch Rambo. I'll watch John Wick.
Right. But Fast Times and Ferris Bueller, it's you get it. You can you can watch it and be like, all right, well, when I was that age, I was doing this, but I still get the whole point of this is a really fun movie to watch.
Yeah, a standard issue coming of age tale can be told at any
Right.
time, and like you can get the beats of it
Right.
all. You back to the even Back to the Future type shit. Like that's all. It's fine because you don't have to rely on that sort of technology. The problem for me is that I think that I would like Star Wars. I do like sci-fi.
Yeah, so I don't. For me, that's. I actually think I would like a lot of movies I haven't seen. I just can't convince myself when choosing to watch a movie that I would like it.
Sure.
And that goes for like, I mean, even recent stuff. Haven't seen Game of Thrones because I don't find the premise interesting. I think if the only way this happens is some girlfriend like holds me down, is like, you're watching Game of Thrones. I'm like, oh, this is great. Like, I actually enjoyed this. Thank you for making me watch it. But there's a lot of things that I probably would enjoy that I just don't watch because I don't like the premise, even though it's probably super entertaining.
I had to do that to Katie for Lost when we first met. She didn't have any interest in seeing it, and I was just like, well, I mean, it's an incredibly popular and awesome television show. So we started binging the DVDs at that point. But in order for me, we had to trade. So I had to watch. She got to watch Lost. I had to watch
like, a Notebook.
Twilight.
Okay, yeah, haven't seen that one either, and
nor should you.
That just goes to let you know that I was single for the entire period Twilight was out.
Yeah, it was not good. I was just like, well, by the way, I'm not going to watch the next one. So get me out of here for this one because that movie was absolute dog shit. Malakar, I'm 38. So by the time that I would have been in Star Wars type age, and like to get it, I'd have been what, like 93, 94, like 8 years old, 9 years old at best. I didn't catch it at that point in time. And like, if you're going to watch the first, like, the spoilers are already hitting me at that point. It's not going to catch me the same way.
Yeah. And to put this, like, obviously there's not a lot of difference between like me and Josh nowadays, but in terms of watching Star Wars, me being 3 versus him being 9 is a massive difference.
Yeah. Like by the time that you would have gotten to Star Wars, it's just, there's too much cool shit.
Yeah, right, you want to talk some basketball? Said being MMA fans and not watching Rocky is crazy. To be clear, I was not an MMA fan until 2020.
Yeah.
And Rocky's a bit older.
Also boxing. And I'm a huge boxing fan too, but
not a boxing fan either.
I don't know.
Yeah, like Mike Tyson was great. He was before my time, kind of.
Yeah, right. Like I didn't need Rocky. I would just watch real boxing.
One of literally like the first memory I thought what boxing was like Mike Tyson biting off Vander Holyfield's ear. That is like, I was 7 when that happened.
I was at a house that got like, I went to watch that fight at a friend's house.
Yeah, because you would have been like 11 or something.
Yeah, that would have been what, like 90?
11 or 12. It was 97, I think.
Was it 97? Yeah, it was 12.
It was like 97, 98. So I was 7 or 8.
Yeah. Yep. I know where I was. Like, I can picture being in this person's house. I can picture where the TV was, like all of that stuff. I have the flashbulb memories of that. Just being like, holy shit. Same for the fight against Lennox Lewis when he just got bludgeoned. Anyway.
Right. So like, I don't even remember. All I remember from the Mike Tyson fight is I will eat your children, like as the quote. And then like, the Sports Center highlights back when Sports Center was watchable.
Man, Tyson was the best. As much as I would like to just chop it up here about all things Mike Tyson and movies, let's dig into this bad boy. Lots to talk about.
And the best age.
What's the best age?
He said I was 5. I remember exactly the same as Adam.
Yeah. Let's talk basketball. Got a lot to talk about here.
I don't want to.
Neither do I. I would much rather talk about movies and stuff too, but I don't think that's going to work out for us. Hit that like button if you're enjoying yourselves, folks. We're going to kick it off at the tip of the
ship happens, says it right.
For you, yeah, sure does. Sure does.
Best quote I think anybody in America has ever had in a meeting.
Absolutely. It's so true. I'm very happy that I work at a company that can have that kind of meeting.
Yeah. I mean, it would have been better if it was actually what was happening, but also it was still great, just in the sense of like the people I know with, because like the person in question literally was like, what would happen if I say something on your call? And I was like, they're going to assume I'm at a strip club. She says something, Greg goes, are you babysitting a stripper's baby?
Who's the better play today, Anthony Davis or LeBron James?
Anthony Davis.
Talk to me about AD today. Played 44 minutes in game one, including every single second of the second half. What can we expect from him from a minutes perspective today?
I mean, I think, upper 30s, low 40s, but it's just if you watched, here's one that YouTube chat will like. If you watched the last game and happened to catch the either halftime or post game where Charles Barkley was talking the entire time, which became a bit, but he had it right. Golden State has nothing for Anthony Davis. Kevon Looney, as good as he is, cannot keep up with Anthony Davis. Yeah. Everybody else is way too small for Anthony Davis. He's one of the few guys that Draymond Green cannot guard. As long as Anthony Davis wants to play basketball, there's nothing for them. And that's kind of the thing. Like, LeBron obviously is great. If you're going to play LeBron tonight, I'm not going to talk you off of it. But in this series, Anthony Davis is just the answer for the Lakers. And the really great thing for a team having LeBron James and Anthony Davis is you have two guys that do different things, and different teams are going to have trouble matching up with that. In this case, yeah, they can't match up with LeBron either. So, like, he still has a very high ceiling, but they have nothing for Anthony Davis.
Do you think that they do have something for Anthony Davis today? Like, do you think that Steve Kerr's plan for today is a different look that changes that equation?
All they could do is, double him or front him or keep him from getting the ball, which, like, yeah, sure, they could. But from a DFS standpoint, I will adjust to that when it happens. Right now, I think you just play Anthony Davis and assume that he is going to beat the shit out of Golden State inside.
Seems like a safe bet. How do you feel about LeBron then? Because to me, the way that I'm hearing this is like Anthony Davis is the guy. Does that make LeBron not the guy? How do you feel about him in this series?
It makes him still good, but it kind of comes down to like ownership, which I'm not entirely sure we have because I got logged out of the site. But like LeBron obviously he's LeBron. He's still in a good spot. Golden State doesn't have a great answer for LeBron either. And if they start throwing doubles at Anthony Davis, then it's going to open up more for LeBron. But it also makes sense from a Lakers standpoint. It's great for you if you can just beat Golden State with Anthony Davis inside and then let LeBron kind of chill. Like, we know he's banged up. Let him chill, rest. Next series, LeBron's fresh. So, like, that's also something that I think is worth keeping in mind from, like, a strategy standpoint for the Lakers. Until Golden State makes them use LeBron instead of Anthony Davis, it should be the Anthony Davis show for the Lakers.
Currently, AD 17%, 18% owned at captain. LeBron is 16%. So essentially the same. AD shows up a little bit more frequently in ownership at the utility spot than LeBron. All told, we've got AD 60% owned. We've got LeBron 50% owned. Does that like equalize them to you?
At captain, no. $400 price difference.
I agree there. I have a big gap between the two of them in the captain spot.
Right.
In my
so
model.
I think you should basically, like, in a showdown format, you're going to be playing a lot of them a lot. You're even playing them both a lot regardless.
Yeah.
I think you should be playing Davis at captain more. If Davis captain is going to be 18% and LeBron's going to be 16%, and it's a $400 price difference, so like a captain, it's a $600 or not even, less than $600 price difference. I think you should be playing AD at captain more and LeBron at utility more.
So I have AD 24% at captain and LeBron at 14%, and then a little bit more of LeBron at utility than AD. So I think the way that I have it right now is the way that you prefer it. No disagreements here.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a lot that we have to say about LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Like, they are the two of the three guys that you should be playing the most on this slate. There's not a lot of like, tricky shit going on with those two.
Yeah. I do think it's worth like acknowledging though that until Golden State adjusts, and that could be today, but until they adjust, this is a spot where Anthony Davis is unguardable for them. And they can sort of like have LeBron run around and rest a little bit.
So after those two, we hit a pack of three guys that are all basically owned the same. D'Angelo Russell at 7,400, Austin Reeves at 7,200, Dennis Schroeder at 4,200. What do you like the most out of that trio? Do you see any upside or downside for any of those guys?
For
Russell, Reeves, and Schroeder are all about 35% owned. That's like the sort of next tier of Lakers.
Yeah.
How does that shake out to you?
So this goes back to what we talked about before game one, where at some point this rotation could change a bit. Reeves played 38.5 minutes in game one. I think his playing time's pretty safe.
Yeah.
Russell played 33 minutes. He could do that again. He could also start losing minutes because he sucks defensively.
Yes.
Schroeder played 31 minutes. I'm not saying Schroeder plays 31 again.
Yeah.
I feel really, really good about Schroeder's minutes because he played 31 minutes in a game where Russell still played 33.
Yeah.
Like, if Russell starts losing minutes, that makes it even easier for Schroeder to get those minutes. If this were like a Russell got benched, he played 20, Schroeder played 30, it would be like, all right, well, there's some chance that Russell just doesn't get benched today. Russell didn't get benched and Schroeder still played 31. That means that they looked at this game and said, we want Schroeder to play more. Even if Russell plays, like if Russell plays less, that's even more minutes for Schroeder. So again, I'm not guaranteeing he plays 31 plus, but it's a very, very optimistic sign that he played 31 minutes in a game where Russell still played 33 and Reeves played 39. Like, it wasn't like he cut into minutes from either of the two guys that are ahead of him, and you have to worry about, well, what if they play well and they play 39 or 33 minutes? That happened, and Schroeder still played 31.
I think it's a really interesting dynamic to look at the rotations between Jared Vanderbilt and D'Angelo Russell, because obviously they started alongside of each other in the first quarter. But in the second quarter, you got Vanderbilt kicking off that quarter. And this isn't how it worked, but Russell came on, Vanderbilt came off. They started the third quarter together the same. Vanderbilt starts that fourth quarter. Russell is not out there. Russell comes in for Vanderbilt at the end of the fourth. That seems to be the pivot point here, where if you're looking for more defense, you're probably going Vanderbilt now because he's going to be guarding Steph. If you need a little bit more offense, you flip-flop those two. When I look at this, it looks to me like they want to have Schroeder out there and that the pivot has now become Russell and Vanderbilt.
Right. And that's really nice because Vanderbilt, well, he's up to 4,800 now, but on a showdown slate, that's still not very expensive. So you have a situation where you can still play all of these guys. I don't think you need to be setting any sort of rules on a showdown slate. Right. But 7,400 for Russell, 4,200 for Schroeder, 48 for Vandy. Schroeder kind of looks, I really hesitate to use this word. Schroeder looks safe at 4,200.
I have quite a bit more Schroeder than the public right now. So far, you are speaking everything that I want into existence. Probably a bad sign for me, but I'm willing to move forward with this entire conversation because I do like it.
So Arcathelza said you can kind of play Russell, Schroeder, and Reeves. They all play big minutes. Yes, but also no. Yes, you can obviously play all three of those guys. I feel weirdly confident in Schroeder's minutes because our assumption coming into game one was that Schroeder was going to need to play more, and he did.
Yep.
Our assumption was that Vanderbilt was going to guard Steph and play more, and he did.
Yep.
Our assumption was that at some point Russell might lose minutes. He didn't, but he also played really well in the second half.
He did.
So I'm not saying you can't play Russell. You certainly should play Russell. From an offensive standpoint, they want him out there. Russell, you run the risk of he has a bad game offensively and he sucks ass on defense because that's what he does, and he just loses minutes.
Yeah. He's never going to lose. I want to make this clear for everybody. He's never going to lose minutes and be at 20, barring any real foul trouble.
Right.
But this is the difference between
26,
saying
27, 28. Yeah.
Exactly. Instead of projecting him at 32, he loses a half rotation for defensive purposes.
Right. When you look at Yeah, and granted, like also to be fair, the Lakers were winning most of the last game. They blew it down the end, and then they ended up winning anyway. But like Russell still played that entire, or no, he didn't. I was looking at Davis. They blew it literally when Russell came in. So I'm gonna go back and just what I started to say is gonna be the case. When you look at the fourth quarter last game, what if Jared Vanderbilt just never leaves the floor? Those 33 minutes for Russell turn into like 28. 27, which is entirely reasonable. It's not to say that Russell can't still be a good play at 5,800 in 27, 28 minutes. And it's not to say that he's guaranteed to play 27, 28 minutes, but there is the very real risk that is what he plays because Jared Vanderbilt is who they're using to guard Steph. D'Angelo Russell is a risk on the defensive end. And if this game's competitive throughout, instead of like letting Russell be out there to blow the lead, they might just not put him back on the floor.
Anything else you want to touch on for those three? I know we didn't say too much about Reeves. I'm in agreement. Like I gave him 36 minutes. I think he just sort of like wash your hands of it all at that point. He's just out there.
I think Reeves
he's a good option
out there no matter what, basically.
Yep. Yeah. He's a good play. If you get to him, great. I think 35-ish% ownership is like spot on for him.
Right.
How do you want to handle your boy Rui, who saw a reduced run in this most recent game, which from everything that I had read in the come up was likely to happen. It did happen, and they won. Tough sell for me today.
Yeah, tough for me to make any sort of case that he would get more minutes. If you want to view this as like it's a one-game slate and maybe weird shit happens, sure. But it's very difficult for me to make any sort of argument where Rui gets more minutes because he's not the defensive replacement. They don't need an offensive replacement. You have Russell, LeBron, and Davis. They don't need somebody to step in there and be better offensively. And Rui's not the guy you're going to on defense as Vanderbilt.
Final guys that we could talk about here. The other two guys that saw the floor, and there's one that I want to talk to you about because I'm very, very intrigued. I'm going to throw Troy Brown in the garbage for right now. He played 12 minutes. He's not a great per minute guy. He is 2,200, but like certainly a valuable, like he's a guy that you can get to if you need value. I don't think there's a lot to say about Troy Brown.
Here's all I'll say about Troy Brown. We talked about it last game where it was like, we don't know who is going to be the last guy in their rotation. And if you're just guessing, I would prefer from a fantasy standpoint, it to be Malik Beasley because he scores. We saw it's Troy Brown. So now Troy Brown is ahead of Malik Beasley. Other than that, nothing to add.
If Wenyen Gabriel is really 1.4% owned, I think he's the most interesting guy for us to talk about here. He got the only minutes that Anthony Davis wasn't on the floor. So they were willing to go to Wenyen Gabriel. They on purpose put him in when Anthony Davis wasn't in. I didn't expect Anthony Davis to play the entire second half. I guess that is in play. But I gave Wenyen Gabriel 88 minutes. I gave Anthony Davis the other 40. Now, they don't have to go to Gabriel in a second half rotation. That can be LeBron or Vanderbilt or whoever you want to call the center in that scenario. But I think the 8 minutes of Wenyen Gabriel looks interesting. And on the off chance that AD happens to get into foul trouble, if he can get to like 9 or 10, if he is the unowned piece and Troy Brown is 14% owned at a slightly more expensive salary, I like rolling the dice on Gabriel. This is large field, though.
Right. Large field, sure. Because if Anthony Davis gets in foul trouble, if Anthony Davis gets touched inappropriately and decides he needs to go to the locker room, like Gabriel is the guy that steps up. The thing that also makes me hesitate on Gabriel, though, is yes, he was the only guy. Like he was Anthony Davis's backup last game in a game where Davis played, 1 million minutes and there were like 4 minutes left over. If Davis were to actually have like, I don't know, he falls on his ass and has to go to the locker room and he's going to be out for a period of time, Rui probably plays more in that case. So I'm not completely convinced that it's just straight up 48 minutes of Davis minus Gabriel. It could be. And to your point, like in large field tournaments, it's not the craziest way to differentiate. You're going to lose a lot, but then like you're going to have those days where you just make $100,000 because you have Wenyen Gabriel.
It's really only because of the ownership number. Like if it were 8, which is like what Moses Moody is at right now, then I don't think it's as. But
this also comes back to like, it might actually be like 6.
Sure.
instead of 1.
Yeah, it's possible.
But yeah, like I'm with you from a strategic standpoint, from the standpoint of like, you only have to win $100,000 once to be up for a long period of time. If Anthony Davis actually were to get hurt, which is like the best argument you can make for Gabriel, I still think Rui just plays more also.
If we're going to show Beasley at 6.
Yeah,
This is a man that didn't even step on the floor.
Yeah, I didn't realize that was I didn't realize that was a thing. But yeah, like but Beasley, I guess that's kind of my like counter argument. Beasley cannot be more owned than Gabriel, right?
I don't know. I mean, I think more people are more likely to like click on Malik Beasley. I don't know.
It's a $400 price difference. One of them stepped on the floor last game, one didn't. So like I would bet Gabriel is 6 and Beasley is 1.
Interesting. Well, I hope you're wrong because I'm not going to have Beasley.
I don't think you should have Beasley.
I don't think that.
I don't know. And again, like I'm not knocking our ownership projections. I know that they factor in what other sites are projecting. I don't know how sites are projecting Beasley high enough over Gabriel that he would be 6 and Gabriel would be none.
Right. Like, especially you have to be giving Wendy and Gabriel 6 to 8 minutes.
Right. Especially because the Lakers won this game.
Yeah.
If the last game, if the Lakers lost, then we could go back to what I had said before last game. I said, I like Malik Beasley as a low owned punt play because he at least does things that are good for fantasy. He's a 3-point shooter. If the Lakers are in a position they need 3-point shooting, they have Malik Beasley.
Yeah.
They didn't lose the last game though. Unless they start getting their asses kicked this game, they have no incentive to change what they did last game and throw Malik Beasley in there.
Agreed. I have nothing else to say for the Lakers. Do you?
I guess I will follow it up by saying in large field tournaments, that is still a viable case for Beasley where we're in game 2. We're still in Golden State. They could just start getting the shit kicked out of them. And they're like, oh shit, we need Malik Beasley right now.
Yep.
So like, I'm not saying Malik Beasley is like I'm not saying Malik Beasley is a bad play at low ownership tournaments. I'm saying if he's 6 and Gabriel is 1, I think Gabriel is the better play because we know what the Lakers want to do with their rotation, and it is not to play Beasley.
All right, folks, hit the like button for Maleasley for the 1,000 people that are here. That will help me out a ton. Live Before Lock coming up next. You don't got to go anywhere. They will take you all the way up until 9 p.m. And also, we still got to talk about May Bundle. That is the promo that we are running right now. You guys have heard it because Steve, a.k.a. DeColts, is just nuking all things DFS right now. We're trying to give back to you guys a little bit. Click the link in the description. Use the promo code MAYBUNDLE. That's one big word. You see it on the screen right now. You'll get 3 days of either weekly or monthly Stochastic for just $5. It doesn't include FC. So whichever package you pick will automatically renew. You will have to opt out of that if you want to, but you will get 3 days for $5. If that's not your cup of tea, after 3 days, cancel. You got nothing to worry about. You're only out that 5, but I think you're going to be happy. It is working for Steve, that's for sure. It can work for you. It's the same stuff. He is working on the projections. It is there. He did an office hours in our Discord today. You can pop into something like that. And now's a great time because you get now through the weekend. You get this game, you get MMA, you get NHL playoffs if you want it, baseball every day. There's plenty of stuff going on. Now is the time to get yourself in the door. So come join us, folks. Let's talk some Warriors now. We got through a half hour pretty well. I mean, I burned 15 minutes out of the gate because I figured I don't think I can get an hour of actual NBA discussion from you. So I think we're going to be in real good shape.
Even you burned. I contributed to wasting time. Let's give me some credit.
Yeah, but I allowed that to happen.
Oh, you think you run this shit?
If you think you do, you can make run sheets and shit every day, brother.
I'm the one that has. Go
ahead. You say what you're about to say because I know what's about to come out of your mouth. I'm the one that has to what?
I don't read your run sheets, so I run these shows.
I thought you were going to say that you were the one that had to like prepare the information and the data, and that's why you cut yourself off, because you knew that that was going to be
No. I was going to say that you put in the work for what you think I'm going to say, and I don't even look at it. So that's how I know I run this shit.
Yeah. Anyway, Warriors. Steph Curry, your most expensive Warrior. That should be very little surprise to you. 57% owned. He's basically LeBron and AD. Do you have anything additional that you want to add to Steph? Do you rank him? Where do you rank him for those top three, or don't you? Is it just like you got the top three?
So I think you still have the top three. I will say I do give Davis a bump after how we saw last game go, because I think going into game one, you could certainly look at it and say, like, Golden State doesn't really have an answer for Davis, but we don't know how the Lakers are going to treat it. We saw the Lakers treat it like Golden State doesn't have an answer for Davis. And until that changes, I think Davis is the one. I think Curry and LeBron are very similar.
Okay. We're not going to get anywhere talking Curry. The guy that I'm really interested to talk to you about here, unfortunately, is pulling the ownership that I didn't want him to get. Draymond Green, 7,600. He's the second most owned Warrior right now at about 44%, 8 at the captain, 36 in utility. Draymond was primed to play a shit ton of minutes in game one, and it doesn't look like that when you look at the box score. I think he's primed for 35 plus today, potentially even more, depending on how you want to dig into game one. We saw it in the final game against the Kings as well. How are you feeling for Draymond today?
I think he plays more. 7,600 looks good. I mean, obviously with Draymond, you understand the downside where he's not the best offensive player, but he's going to be involved in terms of playmaking. He's likely to play a ton of minutes here. He's 7,600. Like you said, I think he was meant to play more minutes last game. He had some foul issues, but also Golden State lost. They can't really fuck around with stuff anymore. They need this game. They're going on the road after. This strikes me as a Draymond plays 38 minutes game.
I agree. I can't project him for 38 just because, but he still grades out very, very well for me. We also have Jordan Poole pulling a shit ton of ownership. This is probably the biggest discussion point that we have for Golden State. 45% owned. He is actually second. I needed to refresh the sheet here. 39 at utility, 6.5 at captain. I am not nearly as big of a believer in this ownership, but I believe it if the minutes exist. I just don't know what he's going to play. I think they need him more in this series, but it's also Jordan Poole. If his shot's not falling, and I know you're not much of a Poole guy, but if his shot is not falling, he's bringing nothing else to the table. What do we want to do with Jordan Poole?
Yeah, so he's really tough as far as what I think about it. If Golden State uses him the way they did last game, I love him at 6K. He played 30 minutes. I think it's more likely that he does not come close to that.
Yeah.
He's a liability defensively. He played really well in the second quarter of the last game.
Yeah.
I think last game you saw what happens when Jordan Poole plays well. I think people are likely to chase those minutes. Jordan Poole doesn't play well that often.
Yeah.
He's not very good. He is, to me, the prototype of a tournament guy in NBA DFS.
Yeah.
Right now, we have him projected for 39% ownership, 45% ownership, 39 at utility, 7% at captain. He is cheap. I will give him that. Like, even if he plays poorly, I think he's playing 22 to 24 minutes, and he can pay off 6K. So that's why you would still play him. But I think it's likely that he gets over-owned because he played well last game. He shot well. He shot like 6 of 11 from 3. What happens when Jordan Poole does his normal shit where he shoots 3 of 11 from 3 or 4 of 11 from 3, and they just go to more Moody or anybody other than Poole?
Oh, to me, I think the easiest way to look at it is this. He played 5 minutes to close the third quarter and played the entire fourth quarter to get him to 30 minutes on the dot.
Right.
What if Golden State just happens to be ahead in that time, and it's not necessary? Like, and Poole's playing. He's playing average. I don't want to say that he's playing bad or good or anything. If he's just playing average and they are ahead in this game, Steph's playing well, Clay's playing well, whatever, then I think Jordan Poole becomes Looney, Peyton, Moody, a defensive side of this one.
Exactly. And Golden State's a 7-point favorite. So, like, I don't think we should be approaching this game like somebody earlier mentioned, well, in garbage time, it's going to be Beasley and blah, blah, blah. Like, we shouldn't be approaching it from that standpoint. We should be approaching this as if Golden State is going to be ahead in the fourth quarter, because that is the most likely case. Poole does not need to be on the floor in that situation. Poole should not be on the floor in that situation. It should be more Peyton, Moody, DiVincenzo, Draymond, whatever the case may be. Looney, Poole played 7 and 6. He played like 25, 26 minutes in the first, or 13 to like 14 minutes in the first half last game. He was on pace for 25, 26 minutes based on the first half.
If he shoots 4 or 5 from 3 and a quarter, he's going to be out there a lot more.
Right. Let's call it 24, 25 minutes from Poole. That's still fine at 6K. It's not saying you should never play him. You shouldn't expect him to consistently play 30 minutes. If Golden State is winning this game in the fourth quarter, they have no incentive to put that dude on the floor.
Unless he's the one that did it, he's not going to. I don't expect him
to
be out there.
If he's knocking down every shot he takes, then it's hard to take him off. But Jordan Poole is a streaky player. He typically is on the wrong side of good. If he's the, and again, this isn't to say like you shouldn't play him at 6K, because he's very cheap for a guy that has the ability on a 1-game slate to control his fate. Most guys, it's just like, I don't care how hot he gets, he's going back to the bench as soon as the guy ahead of him is ready to come back in. That's not the case with Poole. He does have upside, but he's likely to be overowned because we saw game 1. He played 30 minutes. He shot the lights out. Jordan Poole doesn't shoot the lights out on average. Jordan Poole doesn't play 30 minutes and doesn't play the entire fourth quarter in a game they're ahead because he's a liability at that point.
To me, when I look at it, I think he's the most overowned guy for the Warriors. I certainly see the path and the price tag, but I think he's a little overowned. I see Wiggins and Clay at basically the same ownership. Those guys are more appealing to me, or at least more properly owned right now. Do you have any like Wiggins or Clay takes? To me, they're sort of just like Austin Reeves. They're going to be out there for like 36 to 38 minutes. You know what you want out of Clay and everything, but I don't think they're like all that actionable to talk about.
Yeah, no, it's the same to Reeves, or same as Reeves for me. Like, they're good plays, but the fact that they are just solid, good plays makes them very uninteresting to talk about. Like, what am I going to tell somebody watching this show? Andrew Wiggins is going to play a lot of minutes because he's one of the best defenders on the Warriors, and also he can score a bit. So that's good for DFS. I don't really know what to add other than the very obvious of those guys are going to play big minutes. They are very key parts of the rotation.
Okay, so we're on the same page there. How do you think this plays out for Looney, who's still pulling 36% ownership, which I think is basically correct?
Yeah, I mean, he's 8K, so that's high, but he's also in a position where he's like the only dude that rebounds on this team.
Yeah.
He grabbed about 100 rebounds last game, despite not even closing. And he is one where if Golden State is ahead, as they're expected to be, he probably plays more minutes if they're ahead. Like, they don't have an answer for Anthony Davis, but Kevon Looney is the closest thing they have.
Yeah.
And Looney plus Draymond is the best bet for doing anything to slow down Davis.
Without question. Yeah, I find Looney to be difficult, but like, exactly what you just need minutes from Looney. That's it. Like, he's going to get 15 rebounds sort of just by default from being out there. We know how that sort of works. What do we do with everything on the bench for the Warriors?
I need to push back on Josh Gilb on this. Poole also was a +7 +- the best on the team. He probably won't lose many minutes regardless of how he shoots. He was a +7 because he shot the lights out.
He was 6 of 11 from 3.
Right. He played like you have it backwards. He played those minutes because he shot so well and they kept him out there. They do not need his spacing. He sucks ass. He's like a 33% three. That was overstating it, but he's a 33% 3-point shooter. If you think that the Warriors need Jordan Poole spacing, You think the Grizzlies need Dylan Brooks spacing is how you should view this. They are the same 3-point shooter. Jordan Poole takes the ball out of Klay Thompson's hands and Steph Curry's hands. He is not a overall plus for Golden State. If he's knocking down every shot he takes, they'll leave him out there because sure. But you're viewing it backwards. This is not Jordan Poole needs to be out there. This is Jordan Poole was out there because he was playing phenomenally and they needed.
I mean, he's aggressively wrong now. Poole will close regardless is a terrible take. So
awful take.
If they're winning, he's not, and it's not because of him shooting the lights out again. He is not on the floor. Full stop.
Right. Like shouldn't expect him to be. You just don't understand.
He shouldn't expect to be.
Right. Like and really, if they're winning, the only reason that he is still out there closing, if they're winning and he's shooting well, it's simply a locker room thing where you don't want Jordan Poole to be mad. He still shouldn't be, even if he has shot well to that point, he shouldn't be out there from a just winning the game standpoint.
Josh, we're not missing your point. We completely disagree with your point.
Yeah, no, I understand your point. You have it wrong.
Yeah. If the Golden State Warriors at the 7-minute in the fourth quarter mark are up 7-10 points, something like that, I fully expect Draymond Green and Kevon Looney to be the two guys.
Looney and Green won't close together. Why the fuck not? That's the best defensive team they have out there.
Yeah.
If they're up by, they are 7-point favorites. If they're up 7, 8, 9 points,
dude, Steph,
why
Klay,
would they not
Wiggins, Draymond, Looney, that starting five was plus 25 in the regular season. They've nuked everybody. This is the part that they've been waiting for. This is what they've been waiting to do the entire time. If they're down 7, then I fully expect Jordan Poole to be out there a little bit more.
This team has nothing to stop Anthony Davis from destroying them in the paint other than doubling with Looney and Draymond. Why would those two not be out there if they're up by 7, 8, 9 points?
They did not close in the last game. I don't care what AD was doing. They didn't close together in the last game because they were
were losing, man.
The Lakers went on a 13-3 run. They took Kevon Looney off and immediately went on a 14-0 run.
Right. You know what you do when you're trailing by 1 million and you need to score? You play Jordan Poole over Kevon Looney. You know what you do when you're winning by the 7 points that you're projected to win by? You take Jordan Poole's ass, throw him into the locker room, and put Kevon Looney and Draymond on the floor.
Yep. Yeah. Could Poole close? Yeah, of course.
Yep. If he's playing well or they're behind, yes. It's not the most likely outcome. In a game where the Warriors are 7-point favorites, the most likely closing lineup is their starting lineup.
Yes, it is. What do we do with these randos? Peyton, DiVincenzo, Kuminga, Moody, JaMychal Green, who they dusted off here. Do you feel comfortable going to any one of these guys?
Comfortable, no. Moody at 2,400, I think, is actually a rotation piece. You and I talked about it before last game. Moody makes sense as somebody they would play more as the series goes on. So him playing 6 minutes in game 1 is at least a start in that direction. I'm not saying I want to play a lot of Moody, but I at least think he is firmly in the rotation. And if they're playing from ahead, he probably plays more. Peyton probably plays a little bit more if they're playing from ahead. I still don't trust him. I don't trust JaMychal Green's minutes at all. Would not surprise me if he DNPs today.
Yeah, agreed. I think he could very easily just become Kuminga too.
I don't know why he was inserted ahead of Kuminga in the first place.
No idea.
Other than they must really hate Kuminga.
Yeah, I can't figure it out. We've got Kuminga 10% owned today. Maybe they will make that pivot. Who knows? I don't feel comfortable with really any of those guys. I think the bottom end of the Warriors are really tricky to talk about. Do you have anything else for the Warriors?
No. Ankle break. AJ2 said Warriors have to play small if they stand any chance in the series, and Poole helps that.
Maybe.
I mean, maybe that. That's not a crazy take from a 1-game DFS standpoint. If it just comes down to if they are winning, they're going with Green and Looney. Yeah. Unless it's Poole shooting the lights out to put them ahead.
Agreed.
So, I agree with your take. They don't have an answer for Anthony Davis. They might get to a point where they just say, fuck it. We're not playing any of our bigs and we are playing small. That's not a crazy take. It's just that they are 7-point favorites tonight. And if the game goes according to, it's kind of like, if you think that's wrong, go bet the Lakers instead of being like Jordan Poole has to play a bunch of minutes or whatever. Like you're going to make more money just betting the Lakers as opposed to playing a DFS parlay on how it goes if the Lakers are winning this game.
Steve hit us with a member chat, said, love y'all. Last man, $3,800 utility for the big tournament. I mean, we're talking Peyton, Hachimura, DiVincenzo there. I think I lean DiVincenzo.
So median standpoint, I think it's DiVincenzo. Win the tournament, take home 100K. I think it's Rui, and you just hope that like Anthony Davis gets in foul trouble.
Guys, Underdog is the sponsor for today. I think you guys should sign up at Underdog. I know Adam thinks you should sign up at Underdog. I know he's grinding the best ball drafts right now.
I would love everybody in chat to start drafting against me immediately.
This is I'm going to talk about best ball to start, but I got an even better reason for you to do this. You can get your first deposit at Underdog doubled by Underdog themselves. Up to $100 if you sign up with the promo code Stochastic. You got to be 18 or over, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska. And, call 1-800-GAMBLER if you're concerned with anything here. But this is going to be a great spot for you to go for best ball. What's the payout on that Underdog contest for best ball for NFL?
I think it's like $3 million the first, $500,000 for the best season-long team.
10 million prize pool?
Yep.
Ooh, big money here, folks. Big money. You guys should check it out. Best ball's massive. And this is what Underdog is focused on. And this is what you guys, if you're an NFL fan, you should be doing this. But here's the big one. It's not just best ball. They've got daily fantasy contests. They've got large field GPPs. They've got playoff drafts and things like that. But tomorrow, you get the Jaylen Brown free square, over 0.5 for Jaylen Brown. So if you're playing anything on Underdog, you've got a much easier path to win a little bit more money because of Jaylen Brown. I think that should be a driving factor for you guys. I'm looking at it right now. If you want to take this over under, it's 0.5 points. As long as Jaylen Brown gets a point, you ship that piece. You can see it on the screen right now. Appreciate Underdog for doing something like this. It's very helpful when they run some good deals. I think you guys should sign up for Underdog. I'm very happy to have them as a sponsor right now. Adam, let's touch quickly on the FanDuel side of everything. I just want to zip through it quickly. There's not as much to talk about. FanDuel is a very different mechanism for those that don't know, in that for the most part, you're just trying to get the 5 highest scorers. Maybe there's a little bit of wiggle room if that just happens to be the most expensive guys, but like it's a race to the top because they don't multiply their salary by the same points multipliers. So there's no path to really roster anybody other than Anthony Davis, Steph Curry, or LeBron James in the MVP spot. Those guys are going to make up 90+% of all ownership there, and they should because of the way that this works. When you look at just simply the FanDuel ownership, and we look at somebody like, who would be a good example that I have that seems to be, at least to me, a little underrepresented, like Klay Thompson, for instance, I feel is very, very underrepresented on FanDuel today.
Yeah, because Klay is one of the only people that can actually, it's not going to happen often, but he can do the thing where he beats Steph and he beats LeBron.
Yeah.
Like Wiggins isn't doing that. No. Reeves, Looney, Draymond, sure as shit are not doing that. Klay is the one that can go out there and knock down 11 threes and suddenly has 33 points and whatever rebounds and assists.
Klay, if he's really 3.8% in the star, that's the spot where I want.
That's the one I was looking at, where like Wiggins is 6%. Klay for less money is, not that it matters because you don't have a multiplier, but 4%. Klay is the one that stands out where like, I don't think it's like, I understand why he is not that popular. You also don't get the 3-point bonus on FanDuel, but he's the one guy where like he can just become Golden State's entire offense.
And I do think Wiggins as well is a little underrepresented in the pro and utility.
Yeah, agreed. I think he's overrepresented relative to Klay specifically.
Yeah.
But I think he's underrepresented in general.
I think it's really interesting to see Jordan Poole, even cheaper, be quite a bit less than both of those guys, which I do think he should be.
Yeah, because for him, it's hard to have a game where you beat all of those guys. If he has the good game, like, yeah, he's getting the minutes, but it's still hard for him to beat Curry and Clay and Wiggins. Like, Golden State doesn't want Jordan Poole to beat those guys.
Who's the better salary saving option? Dennis Schroeder at 7,500 or Jared Vanderbilt at 7,500?
It's close. I think it's Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
Because Vanderbilt does things that do not require Anthony Davis or LeBron James to not have the ball in their hands.
Yeah.
Schroeder is fine, but he scores and he gets assists. And LeBron James and Anthony Davis are going to do most of that. Jared Vanderbilt is just going to be out there for minutes, guarding Steph, and assuming he doesn't get in foul trouble, grabbing boards, doing stuff, dirty stuff that LeBron and Davis don't have to. That, it's not all. He doesn't contribute offensively, or he doesn't have to contribute offensively, I guess I should say, to be a good play at that salary.
The other guy that I want to touch on here that I don't know why he's not as owned. I'm really surprised to see Austin Reeves at 8,500 be 37% owned. I have him much, much higher. Like,
yeah,
his minutes are like sort of as firm as they get. Like, if Looney's 12K and Reeves is 8,500, I'm more interested in Austin Reeves.
Yeah, completely agree, because Looney does at least run the risk of, if Golden State is behind, he's losing those minutes. He's not contributing to you making up a deficit. He's contributing to you protecting your lead. Reeves is out there no matter what the score is.
I'm going to say this, and I know people are going to think it's crazy. I think he might be the second best play on FanDuel.
Austin Reeves at 8,500?
Yeah.
What do you think the best play is?
AD.
Okay, yeah. So I'm fine with that. I think in terms of being like underpriced, I think Reeves is like the top.
Okay, yeah, we're on the same page. Like, if you're going to AD at 17.5, like, at some point in time, you have to spend down. And if you're spending down to the 85, like, Austin Reeves at 8,500 is not going to be much more cost efficient than anybody else here. Agreed. Like, in terms of just frequency of being in the optimal, I have Reeves second, just because I think 8,500 does not represent him all that well. Like, he's not that different than Clay today.
Agreed. Like, Clay is the one that, like, is more likely to just give you that generational game where, you look back and you're like, oh, remember Klay Thompson in game 2 against the Lakers? You're not likely to look back and be like, oh, remember Austin Reeves in game 2? Like,
right.
Clay has that leeway where Clay can win you a tournament. Reeves is the guy that I would just want more exposure to,
though. Steve also wants to know, Adam, if you and him hang out, do you need Bud Light and weed or IPAs and Coke?
Yeah, a bunch of things I'm sure chat won't believe. Smoked weed like twice, never done Coke. IPA and Coke is what I would lean to. Bud Light and weed, I think I would just fall asleep.
There you go. And for the nerds out there, I'll take all 4.
Yeah, I mean,
let's get wild, man. Give me everything. Syrup, painkillers, cigarettes, weed, Hennessy, soda. Anyway,
I'm very aware that I have an addictive personality, so I've always avoided Coke at all costs.
Yeah, it's never been a part of my life either, which I'm sure people don't believe. Do we think Schroeder at captain is okay on DraftKings? That's from Brandon in chat.
Who?
Schroeder.
Is Schroeder at captain? I mean, it's one of those that sounds more cashy to me than anything, where like it probably lets you get like every other stud in tournaments. Like, sure, you could do it, but the thing with Schroeder that concerns me is for him to actually go out there and have like a big game, he's probably somehow cutting into Davis and LeBron's production. And if you're playing Schroeder at captain, it's probably to fit AD and LeBron. So I'm not saying you can't do it. Like, it's a 1-game slate.
Yeah.
You can actually make a case for doing literally anything. But that does concern me a little bit. Like, when the guy that you're using at captain takes away from the guys that you are paying up for. if he
best 7,700 or under play for DK utility. I think that's got to be Draymond.
It really, as much as we shit on Poole, it could be 6K Poole.
Yeah,
I think it's either Poole. I think it's either Poole or Draymond.
At that point, if I'm taking 6K Poole, then I want to know what I'm doing with the other 17.
Right. So yeah, that's the fair. Like Draymond, if it's just like I need somebody to round out this lineup.
Yeah.
But make sure you take a look at Poole and see what you can upgrade elsewhere.
I think $4,200 Schroeder too works there, but I don't know what you're doing with $3,400 at that point. Like you're changing, you're going from like Clay to LeBron or something at that point. Got about 2 minutes left here. I believe we've touched on everything. Questions are coming in. I wanted to hit you guys for a little bit more from a question standpoint. I think we dug really deeply into breaking down this game, both on the Golden State side and the Lakers side. But honestly, I think you and I did a hell of a job here. I wasn't expecting as much out of you, so kudos.
I told you I'd be good, man. I told you I was at peak performance for this show.
Did you?
Yeah. I said, would you really want me just straight stone cold sober for this one game NBA show at 7 p.m.?
To be fair, at 4:53, you also said you were right. It's going to be a fun show tonight. So,
yeah, fun. Was this not a fun show?
It was a fun show. I think we did a good job. I think we broke it down. I think we broke it down as well as we could. We got a lot to go though, yet, folks. NBA Live Before Lock is coming up next. Those guys are going to break everything down all the way up until 9 p.m. I hate this 9 p.m. start so much, but what are you going to do? It'd be really nice to be on the West Coast and this be a 6 o'clock start. I know Jordan's nodding on the background. Adam, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
No.
Guys, hit that like button if you haven't done it already. For the 1,100 people that are in here, don't go anywhere. Stay right on the stream. NBA Live Before Lock coming up next.
Yo, it's that time of week again. Stochastic Hall of Fame, where we dish out a bunch of free months of Stochastic Plus Platinum. Yes, $120 value right there, and induct you fine people into the Hall of Fame right here in between the Deeper Dive and Live Before Lock. We got some bangers, not just from Steve Buzzard, who unsurprisingly makes his way into the Hall of Fame again, but from a lot of subs and a lot of viewers. So it's a great day to be part of the Hall of Fame. We'll kick it off. Well, before we do, as a matter of fact, you want to get involved. Download the Stochastic profile pic at stochastic.com/avatar. This is how you're going to get a free month. This is how you get inducted. Got to follow these very simple rules. Tweet your wins at Stochastic HOF if you finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more and win a free month. Get up here in the Hall of Fame. Let's make it happen. Just like DFS Dibbler or Amish Socks. Great feeling waking up to an extra 10K off a single entry. Thank you, Stochastic team. Finally in the Stochastic Hall of Fame. Feels good, huh, man? Amish Socks with a $10,000 win. 3rd place in the clutch shot. Not only in the Hall of Fame, but you get the free month too. Come collect it, brother. And Chris, the last name pronunciation there is going to give me Chris Setas. Is it like pterodactyl where the P is silent? I don't know, but I know Chris took down $10,000 here. Just took down my first 5-figure win. Thank you, Stochastic, for helping me with my NBA lineups. Awesome, man. Congratulations. And Johnny Ray, thanks to all of you and your content on YouTube. $5,000. 3rd place in the Sunday MLB Squeeze. That's a nice little weekend treat right there. Chase, simple man, at Stochastic HOF. $1,500. Taking 1st in the Mini-Max. Dude, our guys have been crushing in these Mini-Max contests for sure. Kenny Herron. Shout out to Eric Lindquist, old E. Lindy, for the golf vid this week, and the awesome-o Alec Baker for the expert analysis to play John Rahm this week. If you're not using Stochastic, you're doing it wrong. I would agree. Give me that free month. You got it, man. $1,000 1st place in the Mini-Max. $1,000 1st place. These dudes just building the bankrolls up, crushing the Mini-Max. Justin French, great night in the NBA for Team Stochastic. Here's my contribution. Split the Mini-Max. Thanks, guys. There you go. $375. 1st place. Gotta love it. Massive ROI. And Steve Buzzard, unsurprisingly, makes his way back into the Hall of Fame. Our CFO here, Steve Buzzard. I'm often asked, what's your favorite daily sport, basketball or baseball? How about both? 100K to baseball, 50K to NBA on the same damn night. Leave some for the rest of us, Steve, and congratulations. Donkey, love the daily content, the boom bust tool, yes sir, and open DMs with the crew. Been trying to fine-tune the process, the max 150 process with low stakes. Little late to post, but back from FanDuel, pinch hit on 4-3, $250 in the pinch hit, second place. Collect the free month, man. Congratulations. And Jeff, first MLB season, and I'm still learning. Nice W for the confidence in bankroll. Appreciate y'all. $150 for Jeff. Followed up by Crash Money. Small win, but I'll take it all the same. Thanks to the crew for all the great content. Appreciate Steve Buzzard taking time out from winning all that to help me refine my process in office hours. Yeah, I think Thursday it is, Steve Buzzard in our premium Discord office hours, answering all of the questions you guys have. What better person to ask questions to than Steve Buzzard right now? Sean, it's beautiful to see great ROI in such a tough contest. A nickel in the 75, I'll take it. Hell yeah, man. How about a free month of Platinum? Look at that. Platinum's worth more than you won. Now you can go on and use those tools everywhere else. Your team is the best around. Thanks, Sean. Congratulations, dude. Season. What, a quarter jukebox? All right, second and fifth place for Season in the quarter jukebox. And last but not least, R. Stanley, who affectionately refers to me as Laffy the Cheapskate because he finally now has the Stochastic avatar. Did not in the past. You rubbed me the wrong way, Rob, but we do things right around here. And because you got it, because you got second place and finally have the avatar, we can now issue you your free month. Congratulations to you. And to everybody else, remember, stochastic.com/avatar. Download that, use it wherever it is you play. Tweet your wins at Stochastic HOF. Get inducted here in the Hall of Fame and get your free month of Stochastic Plus Platinum. Congrats to everybody. We'll catch you back here for another edition of the Hall of Fame next week.
Five on the hands.
Eric prefers 3. I know from experience. What is happening, everybody, and welcome to another NBA Live Before Lock. There is no baseball tonight, which means it was 2 hours of basketball content for everybody who's sticking around. We appreciate you. If you haven't done yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. For today, we have a sponsor that I'm pretty excited about here. If you guys look over Eric's shoulder, Underdog sponsoring us today. They've got their pick'em contest. They've got a free money offer today. Over 0.5 points for Jaylen Brown. That's a lock. So when we're breaking it down earlier, I already have dibs on that being my first pick of the day. I will victory lap it when it ends up winning. I'll make Eric pick some of the other ones, which are, maybe a little bit harder, but I'm going to go with Jaylen Brown. Calling dibs on it now, and we'll talk more about Underdog as we go along. Eric, how's your day going? What's happening?
Doing good. Doing well. Just kind of getting everything done. It's just been a little bit of this, a little bit of that. 11 MLB games when they're staggered with the morning into the afternoon. Ends up just kind of being a longer day for me in the Discord. And then add on a 15-game MLB slate that I'll be recording after this for tomorrow. But then it's kind of like the weekend for me. I get to do an Underdog fantasy show tomorrow morning with Neil Orfield. If you guys want to check that out for the NBA streets, sure, we'll talk a little bit of NFL best ball because these NFL best ball contests are out of freaking control. I mean, the DK one, the Underdog one, it doesn't matter. There are so many great opportunities to jump in and get in best ball right now. Plus, you get to draft against some people who probably don't know what they're doing yet. And I always find my drafts earlier in the year always do a little bit better than after everybody crunches for the quiz later on.
Have you done any drafts yet?
So I started my first, I did the DK one today, but I haven't done any Underdog here yet, mainly because, I just need to fire away and have a little bit of time for it. But $15 million DK, $15 million Underdog, 10 million DK. I mean, it's gonna be a busy summer with best balls. So I hope you guys are excited.
Yeah, and if you guys want to sign up over at Underdog, like I said before, they have their Pick'em contest. So if you guys are going to be playing Pick'em, and Eric and I'll be breaking down some of our favorite Pick'em plays later based on the projection we have over at Stochastic.com. But if you want to sign up at Underdog, if you want to play in this massive best ball tournament, $15 million, which to my knowledge, it's the biggest best ball tournament I have ever seen. If you guys want to sign up over there and get access to it, use our link, which is going to get you up to a $100 bonus on your first deposit. And for tonight's NBA game, we have the Los Angeles Lakers taking on the Golden State Warriors. The Lakers up 1-0 in the series. So before we start breaking down some of the players, the showdown angles, if you guys have any questions for us, leave us a super chat. Or if you're in the Discord channel, one of the perks being a Stochastic Plus Platinum member, at me. We'll be getting to all of your questions today. Who are you picking to win this game tonight, Eric?
I got the Lakers.
Oh,
yeah.
I think you've taken every single time I've talked to you about a playoff game this year, you've taken an Underdog, by the way.
Yeah, it's gone better than it has the opposite over the course of this entire season. It would seem as though that's worked out better than not. When you take into account how much you get when you're correct, like I got plus 410 on the money line for Philly. Didn't matter that they got obliterated there. Even though I had a 10.5 ticket, they moved to 7.5 with Embiid in. You know what I could do with that closing line value? Absolutely nothing. So it was an obliteration there yesterday. Pretty much got everything wrong, but what a wild showdown slate. I mean, you and I did our first show in what feels like forever. And I can't remember a stranger slate to go back and look at the results, like 19 minutes from Jason Tatum. Embiid and Harden end up optimal with less than 30.5 points each. Kind of a wilder scenario there, but with the Lakers today, that line moving to 7, and it feels like everybody in the world is on the Golden State side. All the money's on the Golden State side. I just don't see it at the moment. I think everybody's talking about, they're going to make adjustments. Steph Curry's going to handle the ball more, get away from the Jared Vanderbilt, in the half court, yada, yada, yada. I really don't care. Austin Reeves didn't really have to be that involved last game, and that's been one of the best true shooters in terms of the NBA this season. You had D'Angelo Russell, who played a lot better than I would expect, but I love Dennis Schroeder out on the floor for on-ball defense. I like a lot of what the Lakers have done, not even needing Malik Beasley and some of that shooting here during this playoff run, even though it just seems like Anthony Davis is going to be that dude. So until he gets hurt, I feel really good about the Lakers' chances.
And as a follow-up, one thing that we've seen a lot about that, I know you said you're on the Lakers, you're picking the Lakers to win. And one thing we've seen a lot of in the playoffs this year is when a team loses a game, particularly early in the series, we see adjustments being made fairly quickly. Like we see teams changing rotations. They're going to change minutes allocations for players. Is there anything you see from the Warriors side of the game that you think they might change from game 1 to game 2 that might inform how you're making decisions about your showdown and single game slate lineups?
Yeah, there's a couple that I think are interesting, and similar to Grant Williams, who we didn't talk a lot about yesterday, ended up being somebody that you needed for showdown. I got to say, I think that there's a very outside chance that they get away from JaMychal Green, that they get away from Jordan Poole. And I think there's some disgusting plays that I kind of have interest today where we were trying to find a 1K guy or somebody that was on the cheap there. I feel better about trying to extend the Golden State side. Like the Lakers, I think we're going to get the same type rotations. I think you're going to get the handful of minutes from Troy Brown Jr. You're going to get a handful of minutes from some of those ancillary pieces. Dennis Schroeder is going to play a more meaningful part. I think we nailed that one on the head, in Chalkboard in the premium Discord, talking through some of those scenarios. But I feel as though today could be Jonathan Kuminga. Do you get the feeling that maybe in some way, shape, or form he could enter the rotation here?
No, not all that likely. I gave him 0 minutes today. Here's what I actually think the inverse happens. I think they play their starters bigger minutes today. I think
that makes sense too.
Yeah, I think Steph Curry plays over 40 minutes. And then it's hard to predict Draymond Green for that many minutes just because foul trouble is always a possibility for him. But if he's able to avoid foul trouble, I think we see big minutes from Draymond. I think we could see Wiggins approach 40 minutes in this game. I think Klay Thompson could play 40 minutes. So that's what I think is the easiest change for the Warriors to make. They haven't played their starters massive. Well, they didn't play their starters massive minutes in game 1. We saw them do that at times against the Kings. I think they obviously would have in game 7 had the game not been, just a one-sided blowout. But if you look at some of the minutes for the Warriors last game, they just didn't play their starters nearly as many minutes as the Lakers played their starters. Anthony Davis played 44 minutes. LeBron played 40 minutes. Austin Reeves played 38 and a half minutes. And then on the Warriors side of the game, they played Looney 29. They played Steph 37. They played Klay 37. They played Wiggins 34. I think it's pretty easy to say that the most rational change the Warriors can make to improve their odds of winning is just give all of those core guys like 5 extra minutes.
I don't disagree with that. There also has to be, Anthony Davis is a handful. We saw Draymond Green run into foul trouble pretty much instantly in that game. There's going to be things like that happen where it's still a game 2. It's not a must win, although it kind of feels that way considering the Warriors will be going on the road, which has been an issue for them all season long until they just nuked it behind a Steph Curry 50 piece in game 7. But I still think we might see some interesting things from the Golden State side, more so than how thin are you going for the Lakers side? Because for me, I feel like I'm pretty consolidated with those pieces. I'm not playing Malik Beasley. I have a tiny bit of Troy Brown Jr. just because I'm playing enough lineups to get there. But I have no Wenyen Gabriel interest. I have no Mo Bamba or Rui Hachimura or, trying to get really off the board with some of these pieces. I think Rui's just a little bit overpriced even at 3,800. I feel like all the cheapies that I'm rotating through all exist on the Golden State side.
It's tough to find cheap players that I actually really like from this game, just in general. I think the way that you most reasonably want to differentiate, or at least the way I most reasonably want to differentiate lineups, we'll talk more about the individual players and in a second here once we get past this intro part, is I just want to go cheaper at the captain spot and afford me the ability to spend up for LeBron, AD, Steph Curry, get a couple of those guys into lineups, go cheap. And I understand a lot of these guys are going to be popular, but for good reason. Like Dennis Schroeder type. Jordan Poole played more minutes than I was expecting in game 1. And I do think that is something that could end up changing a little bit, but still, I think that guys like Dennis Schroeder on the cheap end are players who we definitely want to be looking at. And then I'll be taking some shots on just guys that I think are generally going to at least get minutes, like a Troy Brown Jr. But in general, the way I'm going to save salary today is going a little bit cheaper at the captain spot.
I think that's fine too. I still don't regret the Robert Williams. It didn't work out in any way, shape, or form. It sucked. Yesterday, I cashed 3 lineups, I think, out of 60. But at the same time, it was different kind of game script. I'm pretty confident I want to get away from Jordan Poole in a lot of capacity in the utility. And I think that's my easiest way of trimming ownership and duplication. What I want to do with some of these ancillary pieces is still up in the air with 45 minutes to go. I think it's getting to DiVincenzo, Gary Payton II, Moses Moody, a little bit of Kuminga as the absolute punt of all punts at 1K. And then kind of getting to those pieces in utility. I'm still going to get to a lot of Steph, AD, and LeBron. So I think we're finding 2 different paths to get contrarian. That'll kind of make for a good show.
Yeah, and we're going to talk through some of those players now. I'm just looking through, no questions yet. Actually, I take that back. We do have a question here from Pat Clay Tomstar. He wants to know, is Clay going to hit more threes than Kuminga have minutes? I believe so.
Yeah, probably. Again, the more likely thing is that Kuminga doesn't enter the rotation. But I'm just thinking about there's these 3 or 4 minute bursts that you get at the end of the first quarter or beginning second quarter. And if one guy that you don't expect can end up coming out and playing serviceably well, going on a crazy run, I know it's a different situation and it's a starter, but D'Angelo Russell, I did not expect to play as many minutes as what he did. His playoff, he was at 30 or 31 minutes. And then all of a sudden he starts the second half super hot, gets on a run, and they end up playing him alongside Schroeder in a closing lineup. There's things like that can happen that'll skew and change. And you could see that coming. And if I could have changed my lineups in that moment, I absolutely would have. But I was more than fine shorting D'Angelo Russell in order to get to a lot more Dennis Schroeder. And I was fine to live with the result of it. I think that's what we're kind of running into with some of these ancillary pieces, whether it's Gary Payton or JaMychal Green or somebody. If somebody plays well for a little bit of a stretch of time right off the bat at the end of the first, beginning second quarter, could walk into 8 minutes even. Like, I get it. We can still increase the lion's share of minutes to like 40 for Draymond, 42 or 44 for Steph and Clay. Like, we can still give them a boatload of minutes, and there can still be a way that one of these 1, 2, 3K guys can work out optimally just if they find a couple of those open looks and knock it down.
Yeah, and I mean, we'll talk through some of the potential cheap options. And by the way, I hear you. Like, if you have a hunch that Kuminga is going to be in the rotation, you could take shots on him. But just answering the question we got from Pat Clay Thompson, I think the most likely scenario is that he isn't going to play minutes. He hasn't played minutes since, how long has it been since he actually played
I understand that, but my other thing, it's similar to like yesterday. We were going through it. How many 1K players would you actually expect to be able to do anything? And it's like, I'm looking for 6 or 8 minutes from somebody at the 1K range. Like, I think that's where it's different. The build that you're looking at there, you're getting a 70 burger from either Steph, AD, or LeBron. You're getting really high upside performances that you can only play the 3 studs at because you have a 1K player. And I think it just kind of seamlessly works out to be Kuminga. And if I can find a way, I know that he's the only guy pulling ownership amongst the 1K players, but I actually think it makes sense because if he does see the floor and can be useful, he's a decent fantasy performer, a 0.9 fantasy point per minute guy. I don't think Anthony Lamb steps into any kind of a role here. We saw him play 7 and 4 minutes, 11 total minutes. And both of those were complete blowout runs against Sacramento. But I think Kuminga has an outside chance, whereas I don't find anybody else appealing at that number.
So it depends also how low we're talking. So I think JaMychal Green at 1,800 is a decent salary saving option just because he was in the rotation last game. I expect him to play minutes, and he's also not projected for any ownership really. For all intents and purposes. This is a 1-game slate, and we have Kuminga projected for no ownership. But then also JaMychal Green, who I actually think is going to be in the rotation, is projected for 4% ownership on DraftKings. So that is very, very low for a player who's actually going to be in the rotation, is as cheap as he is. So if I'm looking to punt, and I know you are talking about the flat 1K, so you're probably not considering him, but JaMychal Green is the sub 2K guy that I would be going to.
Okay. I'm okay with that too. I said him, Moses Moody. I'm over the field on all 3 of them.
Here's a question. Of the players that were in the Warriors rotation last game, who do you think is most likely to fall out?
Well, I mean, Jordan Poole's not going to fall out of the rotation. I would expect fewer minutes if he's not knocking down shots, which seems like a pretty likely outcome. I mean, Moses Moody would probably be the right answer, where he actually sees minutes. Say that again.
I said that's my answer as well.
Yeah, Moses Moody would be the answer. But, and that's where I think the Kuminga thing makes sense. Why not just take a shot on somebody who could be more offensive, can maybe make some things happen there? I mean, he's not a bust on par with, other first-round picks for Golden State in recent years, but I still think Kuminga has an opportunity to jump into some kind of a role. But yeah, 6 minutes for Moody from the last game, it'd be very easy to see those just disappear. And then probably second would be JaMychal Green, where those just disappear. I find it hard to believe Peyton, DiVincenzo just disappear and play 0 minutes. But that's where it's I can easily go from Moody to Kuminga, give him the 6 minutes, and maybe I walk into something.
Now we got a question in here from DraftKings, and DraftKings wants to know who is our favorite single entry captain on DK. So let's start talking through the single entry. Well, just captain options in general. And we'll look at this a couple of different ways. First, Eric, if you're going to go just chalky at captain, right? The player who is popular, but you think deserves to be popular. If you could play any one player in the captain spot, who would it be? Who do you think is most likely to be optimal? And then we'll talk about a contrarian option.
Anthony Davis.
He's looked pretty damn good in this season.
Yeah.
It's only been 1 game, but he looked really good in that game. And I just don't really see there being a good option for the Warriors to match up with him, particularly because Draymond is so undersized.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's the most difficult matchup that you could run into in the West for Golden State having to face Anthony Davis. I think they'd be better off with Jokic. The thing about AD is he brings crazy athleticism, which We saw against Looney. I mean, they both were just boarding like crazy against each other. But then what he creates on the defensive end of the floor too, and that's where I think I strongly, well, no, not strongly is not the right word. Yeah, no, so I strongly prefer him over LeBron James and the captain because, well, Anthony Davis is just going to bring blocks to the table. I mean, his props are routinely 3.5 blocks, 4.5 blocks plus steals. And, you know, when you start doing your projections and start plugging those in and you look at what we have here at Stochastic for the projected stats page, and you're kind of copy pasting and translating that, Anthony Davis has such an elevated floor because of some of the defensive stats. And that's the same reason that I will slightly prefer him over Steph Curry. I was going to say, I don't want to say strongly prefer him. I think they're pretty clearly the two best raw point captains to be getting to, and it's not close. But Anthony Davis, I strongly prefer over LeBron.
Yeah, so if I am going to go chalky, we're looking at the 3 stars here: Anthony Davis, Steph Curry, LeBron James. All 3 very similarly projected in terms of ownership. 17.7% projected for AD, 17.1% projected for Steph Curry, LeBron at 15.7. I'm with you. If I'm going one of the popular guys, give me AD. Of the 3 of them, he was the best fantasy producer in the regular season, and it seems that he's the guy who also has the most favorable matchup in this series. On top of that, there are no real price concerns. There are no real ownership concerns. Price is about the same for these 3. Ownership is about the same. If I'm going contrarian, though, I feel really good about this one. If I'm going contrarian, and my answer for, by the way, Mo Bamba rolled out, doesn't fucking matter for this game, but we could remove him as one of those.
Wasn't very
guys.
Nice.
Yeah, we can remove him as one of those 1K guys. He does still have the song.
Yes.
But the question we had was DraftKings wanted to know favorite single entry captain. Dennis Schroeder. Dennis Schroeder to me is the best source of salary.
He's in my single entry captain, so we're on the same page.
Sub 3% ownership. It's really hard to find value in this game because we're at a point in the playoffs where we're going to see these teams. I know I sound like a broken record on this. I've said this so many times about these single game slates at this point in the season, but I do think it's worth repeating for people who haven't heard me say it before or watching the show for the first time. The stars play bigger minutes at this point in the season, which means there's less minutes for the role players. Anybody that we could get that's relatively cheap that I feel good about being in the rotation, playing healthy minutes. Dennis Schroeder played north of 30 minutes last game. Nobody's playing him in the captain spot. He doesn't need to go out and score you 30 or 35 fantasy points to be the optimal captain. He needs to be serviceable relative to his price point, and then he needs AD, Steph Curry, LeBron to all do their job and have decent games. If that happens, you could walk into a situation where Dennis Schroeder is your optimal captain at 2.9% projected ownership. That's my answer there, and it seems like you're on the same page.
Yeah, we're on the very same page. Everything that I said about this game, I do the NBA Lindy's Leans, Likes, and Locks on the Odd Chopper channel every night before for all the playoff games. Just got done recording for tomorrow's games, so looking forward to having 2 of them on the slate for Friday. But I think Dennis Schroeder is just like the guy that's been undervalued by books, by everybody this entire series. His prop was 6.5 points. It was my second largest play that I've had for the entire series. I had an Anthony Edwards points prop that went through the moon. It was like game 2 in Denver. That was a lot of fun. And then all of a sudden his props got inflated to 27.5 for each one of those going down the line. But I was in love, absolutely in love with Dennis Schroeder points prop. I think this series is like tailor-made for Dennis Schroeder. He's played 30 plus minutes a lot of times against Golden State, even during the regular season. And given Anthony Davis, LeBron James were out for those, but it still was a matchup that he kind of thrived at. They talk about it nonstop on the telecast. He's one of the better on-ball defenders. We saw that in Oklahoma City when he played alongside SGA and Chris Paul. I think you probably learned a couple of tricks of the trade from those two, and then converted back over to LA. It seems as though, you know, he's improved in this second stint with the Lakers, and I just like what he's doing from an efficiency standpoint. I like what he brings defensively. It's a lot more important, and if D'Angelo Russell isn't knocking down shots, I'm telling you, you're going to see 30-plus minutes from him. You're going to see way fewer for D'Angelo Russell. I'm pretty much just on opposite ends with those two today.
So we'll talk a little bit more about those guys as we go, but we just talked about the DraftKings side, and nobody asked this question about it, but we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about FanDuel as well. So if I'm looking at the MVP spot, and tell me if you feel differently, I feel like I need to have LeBron, AD, or Steph Curry in the MVP. I'll differentiate elsewhere. The odds of somebody else being the highest scorer in that game, it's very, very unlikely to me. You know, you could always have one of those crazy Clay games where he goes like 10 of 14 from 3 or something like that. But outside of some massive outlier, I think you want LeBron, AD, or Steph Curry as your MVP on FanDuel. I'm going to lean with AD. I assume you're going to be doing the same. But is there anybody else that you see as a potential viable MVP option?
Yeah, Kevon Looney, I think, still has to get it just because, like, and this is like he's 1% owned and you're getting positive leverage by playing him kind of a thing. But Kevon Looney has shown 25 rebound upside. He only played 29 minutes last game, and they're going to need his body just out there for Anthony Davis purposes as much as humanly possible. Like, there's talk about, oh, maybe they need to get into small ball lineups or try to do. No, you can't do that with Anthony Davis on the floor. They absolutely need as much Kevon Looney as they can get. And he can walk into a couple of steals and blocks. That hasn't really been his game. It's just been tenaciousness on the boards and just finding crazy upside there. But for DraftKings or FanDuel purposes, I mean, you runs into FanDuel a couple of stocks or blocks that you're not expecting. He could spike 50. And if this ends up being a lower scoring game than projected, there's a very, very small chance that I could still see him jump to the top of the board.
Okay. It's not a path I'm willing to go down, but I understand. He's been ridiculous from a points per minute perspective, not just this playoffs, last playoffs too. For whatever, people talk about playoff Jimmy Butler, playoff pandemic, all that. Nobody's talking about playoff Kevon Looney, and a guy who goes from being, in all fairness, just a guy in the regular season, right? He exists. We see him on the court, but he doesn't have these massive games. 2 years in a row in the playoffs, Looney is totally blown up. So I do like him in the multiplier spot. I'm not quite willing to go to MVP, but I get it. Let's also then talk about some of the other spots that we have on FanDuel. So there's the star, there's the pro spot. And are there any players in the other multiplier spots, the star, the pro spot, that you are eyeing to differentiate some lineups if we're going to be going chalkier in the MVP spot? Although, like, if you're playing Looney in the MVP, you do whatever the hell you want in the other spots. You're going to be contrarian. But for a lineup that say is Anthony Davis in the MVP, what are you willing to do in the star or the pro spot to differentiate some lineups?
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually playing a couple of lineups over on FanDuel today, so I think probably what I'm going to do is end up jamming just primarily studs up top, and then I am going to take a couple of the Kevon Looney shots in the Star Pro, and with the way the salaries kind of break down, I think that there's actually some viability to doing it where you maybe put Steph down in the stars, so you skip him, you go pro Kevon Looney or something of that nature, because again, he's a shooting dependent stud, and there's no doubt about it that he could end up outperforming LeBron or AD in that respect. But I think that there's an outside shot for Draymond Green to be somebody that's that second highest scoring player, just from a defensive perspective. Again, just adding those stocks, things that are more valued over on FanDuel, and then the different type of builds that you can get to where you're putting higher salary guys below them, either in the utility or in that star spot. So, or in the pro spot. So, as I'm building them out here right now, Anthony Davis is by far my highest in the MVP. Gives me some opportunities to just try to get different in the star spot because I'm just trying to avoid duplication by playing another stud there. It's right now Draymond Green being the second guy. He's at 13.5, which just feels way more expensive, but I think he'll end up having a little bit lower exposure in that star as a result of that. We have 16% compared to Steph Curry, 19, LeBron, 18. So just finding even a little bit of separation from them. And then I have a little bit more salary to add in elevated floor guys at the bottom.
Yeah, if I'm looking at the star spot, I mean, Wiggins projected for 6% ownership. It's
pretty
Klay
good
Thompson,
too.
4%. These guys are so unowned in that spot. And there's an upside for these guys as well. Particularly, we talked about it, or at least I did a second ago with Klay, is I said it's not likely that he has one of those crazy 10 of 14 3-point shooting games, but we've seen Klay have games where he scores a lot in a hurry, and he's just projected for so little ownership in the multiplier spots. Same with Andrew Wiggins. So I think that those are a couple of guys we could differentiate with. And then just in general, Klay to me at 9,500 on FanDuel, and then you got Andrew Wiggins at 10,000. Yeah. I think those are two mid-range guys who just in general make a whole lot of sense on this slate. So Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins, are these players that you're getting too overweight to the field? Neither of them are particularly popular.
Yeah, it's pretty wild to me, actually. Like, that's a little bit surprising hearing the Klay Thompson number, 22.6% down in the utility, 9,500 as you move up. If people are hand building, there's one thing where, that's problematic for them. They're not going to get to as much Klay in a star or a pro spot. That's for sure. Yeah, I definitely like those shout-outs. The one player, though, that I'm making a pretty strong stand on, and I think I was just kind of saving this up. I think this is an Austin Reeves smash spot. He played 39 minutes with only a 9.8% usage last game, only 5 3-point attempts, 4 for 9 from the field. He can be a box score stuffer, and I know he's sharing a floor now with Anthony Davis and LeBron James, which is different during that supersonic run we had without LeBron James towards the end of the regular season. But playing 40, 42 minutes routinely a night, he's one of the best ball handlers. He's never making bad decisions with the ball. 0 turnovers in that first game as well. Really low turnover rate. So on FanDuel, where they're 1, he's 8,500. I'm pretty bullish on Austin Reeves having an elevated ceiling compared to what we've seen the last 2 games. Now, 34 minutes against Memphis ended up being a massive blowout. He had it going. They didn't need to push him towards the end of that game. And then this last one, he was deferring, and he can do that from time to time because, he's still Austin Reeves sharing a floor with a lot of studs, particularly LeBron and Anthony Davis. But there is no doubt that if that usage gets up to 20%, which it had routinely been throughout that Memphis series, then you're looking at a way different box score for a guy who's playing 39, 40 minutes, and he's only 8,500 over on FanDuel. If I'm trying to get different for just somebody to get way overweight to in the utility and in the pro spot, I find it hard to believe Austin Reeves isn't that guy for me.
Yeah, so we look at Austin Reeves' projected ownership right now on DraftKings. He's overall projected for 36.9%. And then on FanDuel, we've got Austin Reeves projected for 37.8%. So very, very similar between the 2 sites for Austin Reeves, actually within a 10th of
what the fuck? Kevon Looney expected to play off the bench Thursday.
Oh, my God. All right. So we were talking before about
in the absolute ever-living fuck.
So we're talking before about different kind of changes that the Warriors could potentially make. This was not one of the ones that I had expected. I felt they were going to do something. I thought it was just going to
short his rebound props instantly.
Yeah, I'm sure they're
14 and a half. I am getting in right now on Underdog here. I'm sure Underdog has them off.
So let's look at, while we're on it, let's talk about Underdog. And then we'll talk about the implications of Looney coming off the bench for the showdown and single game contest, because it kind of came out of left field, right? We thought that the Warriors were going to do something to change the rotation. My expectation was just play Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green more, not take Looney out of the starting lineup. And
oh my God.
Look, so now I definitely like JaMychal Green. This is not what I was expecting at all. Quite the starting lineup. So here we got it. Here we go. Golden State Warriors starting lineup: Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins, JaMychal Green, and Draymond Green. So JaMychal Green's the best value play on the slate, correct?
Yeah.
It's quite the reaction here. So is just the more bizarre news that comes the farther away you get from the microphone? Well, no more news has come out. You can still hear them. Go a little farther away so nobody could hear you at least. A little bit further. Yeah. Little bit. I'm just checking to make sure you're wearing pants at this point. A little bit further. All right.
Ow! Shit!
Look at that. I injured him. Look at that. What an old man you are. You just got hurt sitting. I blame Steve Kerr and Kevon Looney.
Why are we doing this? What is going on? What's the point of this? Ow. That hurt.
I'm honestly not sure. This is a very, unless, are we going to find out that Looney's dealing with an injury or something like that? Do you have any concerns along those lines?
This is just so dumb. Let's take the guy who's been playing out of his mind for us this entire playoffs, and let's bring him off the bench. Okay. Why? And also, we're inserting old man JaMychal Green, who he knocked down open 3 or 2 last game. What are we doing here? Why is Steve Kerr is the most overrated NBA coach. When people talk about Steve Kerr being a good coach and then they blast Nick Nurse or something, they should not. Any
more?
I want to play Looney. I want to play Looney now.
Do you want to play?
People are going to hit eject
Green?
on Looney, right?
JaMychal Green a lot.
Yeah, I'm going to play a lot of JaMychal Green. This sucks. I don't want to play a lot of JaMychal Green. His minutes could be like 8 or 30.
But the other side of that, if he plays 8, I still think he's fairly likely to be optimal at his
That's
price
probably true. We should probably, I mean, are we talking lock button J. Michael Green now?
Pretty close to it. He's so cheap. He's starting. He unlocks all kind of potential with your lineups. You play JaMychal. You can play JaMychal. Let me handle the lineup right now with JaMychal Green at the captain and just see what it is that this ends up doing for us. So if we play JaMychal Green in the captain spot, and then also, I know I said we were going to talk about Underdog and their pick'em contest. If you guys haven't signed up at Underdog yet, use the promo code Stochastic or just sign up using the link that we have below. You're going to get up to $100 bonus on your first deposit. And in addition to that, you get access to the free bet that you have today, which is Jaylen Brown over 0.5 points. That is, or actually it's for tomorrow, but still you can include it on your prop cards for today. Jaylen Brown over 0.5 points. But let's look at the possibilities in your lineups if you play JaMychal Green at the captain. All right. So if you go JaMychal Green, I'm just going to go JaMychal Green, Anthony Davis, Steph Curry, LeBron James. Oh, yeah. You play JaMychal Green at the captain spot with the 3 stars. For the other 2 roster spots, you have an average salary of $6,850.
This sucks.
No, this is excellent.
Why? Why
because
is this
excellent? Because
excellent?
there's just a surefire value play here now. He's not going to be as popular as he should be.
Okay.
So what do you want happy about?
I just don't want to play like a 60% owned JaMychal Green today. I don't know what to do with Looney now. I have absolutely no clue. I just shorted his props. That was great. Hopefully you went to the pick'em sites. You took some less on 14 rebounds. That's what I did. Watch him come in and play like the same amount of minutes now because he only played 29 last time. It's not hard to imagine a world where Green starts off, just like tries to go and annoy the shit out of Anthony Davis for like 4 or 5 minutes at the beginning of the first and third quarters. And then you just bring Looney in for the rest of the time. Like, that's a very live thing to happen. But there's also, as you said before, like there's an outside chance that maybe Looney's hurt. Like maybe something happened to Looney last game that is undisclosed, or maybe we just see a lot less of him and we should just have 0. Like, I just don't know what to make of it because it's such an off-the-wall starting lineup. I don't think they've had this. I'm going through. Let me pull up Add More Funds because I don't think they've had this starting lineup all season long.
They did this last year also in the playoffs, if you remember.
They did? Let me go to last year's rotations. Let me go back date range.
So if you go last year in the playoffs, they had those games where Looney was crushing, and then all of a sudden they said Looney comes off the bench.
Who started those? Was it Gary Payton II who started those ones, though?
Let me try.
I think it was Gary Payton II who started. I'm going to JaMychal Green last year. He did not start a single game in the playoffs.
But I just mean the other side where Looney came off the bench.
Right. I'm trying to see what those starting lineups were because my memory tells me it was Gary Payton II from what I remember. And a couple of those.
There was also
Gary Payton did not start a single game against Boston. He started 2 games against Memphis in that series. He got hurt with the shoulder injury and then didn't come back until game 3 of the NBA final or game 2 of the NBA finals.
So the games where Looney didn't start were those. Oh, they also went to, they like weirdly. I remember they also had a game where they started Kuminga over Looney and then Kuminga played like 5 minutes. They did weird things with their starting laps of rotations last year as well.
Yeah. Going through it last year, to start off the NBA finals, they played Looney. He played 25, 21, 17 minutes. And then they went to Kuminga for game 4. Here's the thing. Does this open up minutes for other, like, as I said before, I thought Golden State had an opportunity where I felt better rotating through some of their ancillary pieces, trying to make something work, trying to make something fit, where I think the Lakers, they did their job. They got the split on the road, and now they can go back home guaranteed. He's sick. Kevon Looney, illness, expected to play Thursday.
Yeah, there we go.
I'm not going to play Kevon Looney now.
So, by the way, this makes more sense now. This is an actual limitation he has.
Yes, this is this was so weird to me that I didn't know how to process it. So while I was being dramatic and doing all my bullshit, it was mainly me just trying to think through what is going on. Him being sick makes way more sense to me because anybody with eyes who watched basketball for the Golden State Sacramento series and Game 1 saw Kevon Looney playing awesome basketball.
Yeah, I mean, as good as he's played really since last year in the playoffs, but yeah, like you said, if you took the under on Looney props, you're looking good right now.
Yeah,
right. That was something that was.
I have an over 13.5 rebound ticket that I just hedged out of here by taking the under of 14. I just fired it, 14.5.
I wouldn't play Looney in FanDuel, DraftKings, anywhere. I wouldn't play him now. I don't know what
I have zero now.
And it seems the implication of him coming off the bench and him being sick is that they don't think he could play his normal minutes. That's the implication here.
Yeah. It's not even that I don't think that he can go out and play well when he's out there. It's just I'm going to put him at 24 minutes. I had him at 31 before, and that got me a ton of Kevon Looney. He's expensive enough where I just want to get to 0. He's the 5th most expensive player on the slate. I'm going to play 0%. That's your rake today, more than likely.
Yeah, and we just had Lee message to say that JaMychal Green is actually the exact same size as Kevon Looney. So
that's
wild.
Yeah,
they actually both 6'9", listed at 230 pounds. So there is that as well. And super chat here, by the way, from Nathan Futi, who says, besides the big 3 and captains, who else to play there? I would say JaMychal Green now.
I would agree.
Just so cheap and opens up all kind of possibilities.
I'm going to play 100% JaMychal Green, and I'm going to play 0% Kevon Looney.
JaMychal Green, the captain.
Yep.
Dennis Schroeder also is a viable captain, but here's the issue with that now. Is I think you really want to play the salary savings on JaMychal Green. You're not going to play Schroeder at captain and then JaMychal Green at utility. So I think that before I loved Looney, I loved Dennis Schroeder as a captain. Now that's not really something that I'm considering. I'm just saving all the salary with JaMychal Green. Go cheap with JaMychal Green. He's going to let you pay up for the studs more at the captain spot. You play JaMychal Green at the captain. It's going to let you just fit in all 3 of the studs in your lineup for FanDuel purposes. Play JaMychal Green in the utility. It opens up a lot of different possibilities. But there is something else to talk about, which is who else could end up getting more minutes from the Warriors now.
That's Kuminga. That's where I'm going.
You going to go Kuminga?
Yeah. I mean, people are saying Iguodala. He's out, so maybe not the guy who's in street clothes. That's what I'm going to throw out there first. Anthony Lamb is probably a bigger frame than Kuminga. Anthony Lamb is, because I know Kuminga's 6'7". Nope, 6'6", but yeah, they're about the same size. I don't think either one of them are going to be functional against Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis is just going to run amok in this game. It's probably going to be Draymond Green who has to guard him a lot, which is not ideal. Again, undersized Draymond Green going up against AD. This should be fun. But I think, I'm just going through the roster. I mean, they don't have a good answer. It's a nightmare matchup as is. I think Kuminga's probably the first guy. I think Anthony Lamb probably enters the conversation too. He at least played some minutes in the blowout time. He had played rotation minutes throughout the entire season, or throughout the entire year, basically. He had played at like 16 to 18 minutes, averaged 18.5 for the entire season. Maybe that's somebody that you kind of intermix into because, Kuminga, I don't really think of him as a defensive stopper. I mean, maybe you just play him by default because you have to, and Looney's not as available. But Kuminga probably one out of the other options. But I'm trying to elevate Anthony Lamb because I don't think anybody's going to play him.
Yeah, I mean, there's weird things that can end up happening with the Warriors rotation that definitely makes it hard to predict now when you got somebody who's just been a monster for them underneath the glass is sick, not starting anymore. I also think this helps out Draymond Green a little bit in terms of what his rebound rate should be. I think this helps Andrew Wiggins' rebound rate. And we also got an update in terms of our projections, ownership projections, player projections. Those are all updated. We're going to talk about that in a second. But first, I want to tell you guys how you can get access to all of these great tools we have over at Stochastic.com, which are updated in real time this quickly, right? We got the JaMychal Green news, and it only took a couple of minutes for our projections, ownership projections to all be updated. And here's the best way to take advantage of the projections we have. because Steve Buzzard wins $100,000 like twice a day now, we have a package available in his honor. It is the May bundle. And this is going to include all of the tools at our site for every single sport. You get access to them for $3 for 5 days. So this is other way around. You get 3 days for $5. I'm not sure what I just said there, but I think I said it the inverse.
Sounded great.
3 days for $5. Get access to all of that when you sign up using the link that we have below. The promo code is May Bundle. It's all together though. So when you click on that link below, it's going to take you right to that, and the promo code is already loaded in. Now, why should you guys get access to this? Like I said, we've got the ownership projection, we've got the player projections, and you look at big wins like Mr. 586 was watching our show the other day. He had 35 cents in contest entries on FanDuel. He listened to some of the information we were talking about on the show about the tools and data, and he turned that 35 cents into $616.66. Pretty good ROI there. Congrats to Mr. 586. And now he has access to the tools that we have over at the site. If you guys want access, sign up using that link we have below, promo code May Bundle, access to everything we have here, $5 for 3 days. Now let's talk about the updated projections we have here. And I want to get your reaction, Eric. On DraftKings, JaMychal Green is projected for just under 60% ownership, 5% ownership in the captain spot. Over on FanDuel, JaMychal Green is currently projected for just 14% ownership, and almost all of it coming in the utility spot. So first, starting with DraftKings, what do you make of JaMychal Green being 59.7% owned?
Makes a lot of sense. That shouldn't surprise anybody. I think what's happened to my lineups here is that I'm just getting to way more Anthony Davis, Steph Curry, and LeBron James in the captain. It's really hard to get away from them now when you have an option like JaMychal Green. I don't want to play him in the captain spot. I really don't want to be playing. I'm going to have a tiny bit of Austin Reeves, a tiny bit of Andrew Wiggins, and a tiny bit of Klay Thompson. But I am primarily just jamming Anthony Davis and Steph Curry. That's kind of what ends up happening. I'm getting to utility. I'm north of 60%. I'm almost 100%, not quite. I have a couple of lineups where I'm going to take the Anthony Lamb swing, the Jonathan Kuminga swing. But JaMychal Green is so hard to get away from now that he's officially starting.
The other thing, too, is people calling him a trap. And this isn't a normal regular season game. I think there's a debate to be had about what we want to do with him on FanDuel. We'll talk about that in a second because he's so different on FanDuel and DraftKings.
Yes.
He's $1,800 on DraftKings, $6,000 on FanDuel. We talk about the $1,800 price tag on DraftKings. This isn't a regular season game where you need him to start and play like 26 minutes and score 25 fantasy points or anything like that. If JaMychal Green goes out and plays 18 minutes and scores 10 fantasy points, he's fairly likely to be optimal today.
Agreed. And that's the part that's underappreciated about this. If we were playing a 6-game or greater NBA DFS slate in the regular season, if we were to run into something like that, we could have the trap conversation about, because there's so many other options. This is a 1-game slate where the guy is drastically cheaper than everybody, and he's the only guaranteed piece that we know who's cheap, that's sub 2K, that we know is going to see the floor. Like it's such a wildly different outlook playing JaMychal Green on a showdown slate for the playoffs in a must-win. Well, not a must-win, a game 2 that's very, very important to Golden State. And then talking about it on a 6 to 10 game regular season DFS slate where he'd be 3K.
Yeah, that's really echoing my sentiments from before. It's not just you get the lower salary, but then also there just aren't that many cheap guys that we could reliably expect to play minutes. And I hear you now. Taking a shot on somebody like Jonathan Kuminga and just saying like, for all we know, Looney might be so sick, he might only be able to play like 10 minutes today. He might not even play at all today. He might be a DNP coach's decision for all we know. We don't know how sick he is. The only thing we know for sure is that he's sick and he's not starting. We know JaMychal Green is starting in his place. We don't know what that means for the rest of the rotation. So you want to take a shot on somebody like a Jonathan Kuminga in large field tournaments? Totally reasonable. But the safest guy here, I do think JaMychal Green has a fair amount of safety, even if we don't know exactly what his minutes allotment is going to look like because he is so cheap and he is starting. But that's for DraftKings purposes. On FanDuel, he is 6,000, and he's not expected to be popular. 12.7% projected ownership. 14% projected ownership, 12.7 of that in the utility spot, and then the other 1.3% in the pro spot. What are you going to do with him at 6K on FanDuel?
You don't really need him, do you? I think that's the conversation is do we need the piece that just relative to the salary, where it's 12K average per person, you're going to be playing an Anthony Davis, LeBron, or Steph Curry. It would be asinine to not play at least one, probably two of them in every single lineup. You don't really need to get down to J. Michael Green. Now, that's really low ownership that I would want to get over. I would find it hard to believe that I wouldn't be over that number here as I'm building things out. But again, I do think it makes sense just because you get pieces like Gary Payton, Dante DiVincenzo, Jared Vanderbilt, Dennis Schroeder. All of them are only 1,500 more. Whereas on DK, just exponentially more expensive getting to those guys than what it is to get to a $1,800 J. Michael Green. What is he? $1,800. Yeah, it's just a different type play for FanDuel, and I'm okay getting to some of it in the utility. There's no world where I'd play J. Michael Green in an MVP star or pro, so it's a pretty clear-cut spot where I'm just punting with J. Michael Green. So if we think that ownership's going to maintain, I'd be happy being over it, but you don't need him there the way I think you need him on DK.
Yeah, and now we got some questions from you guys, so we'll hit on those now. I wanted to make sure that we covered that Looney not starting news, because as far as a one-game slate goes in the past, you don't get news like that all that often. We very rarely see anything like that. Bobby B's left us a super chat. Thank you, Bobby. Curry or LeBron in the captain spot?
Curry.
Yeah, Curry if I'm picking one of them. I do prefer AD. My two favorite captains now are AD and JaMychal Green.
You're going to play some JaMychal Green captain. I have none of those because I find those builds to be really difficult to get different.
So for me, my best showdown wins have been I'm playing somebody like JaMychal Green at the captain spot and then leave like $800-900 in salary on the table. Because what a lot of people end up doing is they'll go JaMychal Green, a captain, AD, LeBron, Steph Curry, and then just play like all of the most expensive guys that you could fit in. Mm-hmm. You just go like a couple spots down from that and you leave $900, $800, $1,000 salary on the table. And then the lineup does become fairly unique. That's something I've found a lot of success.
But it's really hard. Again, so I'm just building it out so we can talk through it. JaMychal Green and the captain, AD, Steph, LeBron. Like you kind of want to be playing all three if you're going to play JaMychal Green and the captain. You get $6,850 per player remaining. And again, I'm just hand building this rather than crunching. I'm just crunching some lineups as we go along. You can't play two of like Wiggins, Green, Russell. You have to play Jordan Poole. Or if you don't play Jordan Poole, you have to play Dennis Schroeder and leave at least $1,300 on the table going to Klay Thompson.
What? I'm totally cool with $1,300 in salary on the table.
Okay. Well, then there you go. Then it's got to be Dennis Schroeder who ends up being the guy who nukes it over these other guys. Because otherwise, for me, I find it to be a little bit easier for me to go to a ton of Anthony Davis Curry and rotate as many combinations as I can where I have JaMychal Green just 100% in the utility.
Yeah, there's a lot of lineups that I actually do like with the combination of Green at captain, JaMychal Green, I should say. And then you go Curry, Davis, LeBron. And the two spots left, lineups that are Dennis Schroeder or Jared Vanderbilt. And then you go Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins, Draymond Green for the other spots. And then you have this lineup that's going to be leaving like, $1,300, $700, $1,600 in salary on the table. But I think it is a really strong lineup. And it's not ridiculous to think that, like Andrew Wiggins or Draymond Green could outscore Klay Thompson in that range as well.
Don't think it's weird at all. Do you think, because I'm starting to get more Jordan Poole now too, just because I think, do you want to play a ton of minutes of a Kuminga or a Lamb or something, or would you rather just play somebody who's been in the rotation that can knock down shots? If you're going to have Kevon Looney be limited to 20, 24 minutes or something of that nature, like Jordan Poole, I think just ends up on the floor a little bit more than I would expect by default. I mean, he ended up on the floor a little bit more last time out. So I was pretty clear cut against Jordan Poole. I'm getting to a little bit more now just because I think those minutes are more secure.
Yeah, I mean, I think with Jordan Poole, because think about in the regular season, before Looney was starting, who was starting? It was Jordan Poole.
Yeah.
So you just start to think like, all right, if Looney's minutes are going to be going down, we know some of them are going to JaMychal Green because he's starting, but it's logical to think other minutes go to Jordan Poole as well if Looney isn't able to play all that much.
Agreed.
Question in our Discord channel from Basti G. Basti wants to know, is it too thin to play Kuminga and Green together in a GPP? You're just leaving at that point way too much salary on the table, I think.
Agreed.
So let's see. If you have, I'm just going to do this really quickly on my phone in front of me. So if you have, let's just say AD in the captain, and then you go JaMychal Green and Kuminga, you are leaving yourself 10,003, a little bit over 10,033 for the final two spots. So if you plugged in Steph, LeBron, and then you have 7,900 for that final spot. Then you go like Wiggins, Draymond Green, but then you're going down. Yeah, I don't really love that lineup.
I don't love it either.
Are you going to play any lineups with Kuminga and Looney together? I mean, Kuminga and
I have one. I just crunched like another 100, and then I'm taking my top 20 for the 20 max stuff, and then playing some other stuff along with it. And I did get one lineup with it, but then it's just so chalky that I feel like I'm still going to run into duplication with it. So I'm removing it, and yeah, I'm going to get rid of it here right now. It's just it's the same lineup that you should be building with that, where it's just raw projected 3 studs and you're moving on with your life.
Yeah, but that's going to be super popular now, lineups with all 3 studs. We only have a couple minutes left, but there is one thing I want to ask you that's just been on my mind as we have all the salary opening up and all these studs to get to. If you were building a lineup that left one of the studs out, who would you be leaving off?
Got to be LeBron, right? It's weird to say because, he's one of the best players of all time, yada, yada, yada. But Anthony Davis has just been such a great two-way player. He's been who they play the offense through. And then Steph, closeout games and important games. It's just been a decade plus of him going completely nuts in these kind of spots too. So I think if you made me, it feels very uncomfortable to fade LeBron James in any format, but it's got to be him out of the 3, right?
He's the one I like the least of the 3, and it's for different reasons. Steph Curry, I think, is in line to play more minutes now that we have this team is apparently a little bit shorthanded, that's going to mean more minutes potentially for Steph Curry. Then the other thing, too, with Steph is already I thought he was going to play more minutes and carry a bigger usage because they were lost game 1. And then I just think Anthony Davis has been the better fantasy producer than LeBron, and he's somebody I project better and I think is the stronger pay-up option to LeBron today. So I think that if I had to only play 2 of the stars, I would be going AD and Curry, and it looks like you are on the same page as me there.
Correct.
And by the way, for people who are confused, Kevon Looney is not out. He is just not starting. He's coming off the bench. He's dealing with an illness. It doesn't mean that he's guaranteed to play 10 minutes. It doesn't mean he's guaranteed to play. There's a really wide range of outcomes with Looney. Like, what would be your best guess for playing time for him now? Best guess.
24 minutes.
I think that's a really good guess. I'm looking at his most recent games where he came off the bench. April 4th against the Thunder, 25.5 minutes. March 31st against the Spurs, 24 minutes. March 28th against New Orleans, 22 minutes. The scenario is different because he was not starting those games. It wasn't that he was sick or anything, but that does seem about what we've gotten from him when he hasn't been starting this year. It's like 22 to 24 minutes.
Got it all done. My God.
There we go. We are just about at lock now. Eric, any final thoughts here before the game starts?
I mean, I have no idea what to expect with this. All I know is that I just jammed a lot of the top end guys. I have a little bit of Austin Reeves in the captain. Those are my only 4 captains that I ended up with tonight. So I've got a pretty consolidated core of lineups. Hopefully, JaMychal Green plays like we hope he will, 16, 18 minutes at least. That would be nice. But just like yesterday, expect the unexpected stuff. Yesterday, you had 2 optimal players who, put up less than 30.5 fantasy points that were 2 studs. And we could be running into more of the same here, but it's going to be a lot of fun. Looking forward to some NBA here tonight. Let's get out of here.
Yep. And we're about to close it out. Don't forget, if you guys want to sign up for tools, all DFS sports, player projections, ownership projections, use the link below. It's got the promo code loaded in already. May bundle. You're going to get 3 days of access to all the tools we have for every single sport. $5. So go check that out. Enjoy the game tonight, guys. If you didn't do it yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Good luck. See you back here tomorrow.
Oh, man.